So I'm agreeing with you, Carol Ann, not disagreeing.
I guess we are now live, which means we're in the pre-webinar space, and we're still live. I guess we're pre-webinar until we decide to start.
Petronella, yes, I'm a born Yank, as they would call me here. I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, but I actually moved to New Zealand from Las Vegas. And like I say, I've been here for 23 years. But I've been all around the U.S. I worked in New Jersey. I lived in Reno, Nevada, which is northern Nevada, which is kind of inland a little bit from San Francisco. I've worked in Silicon Valley. Like I said, I worked in New Jersey and Ohio. Like I say, I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. So around there in Mississippi and Arkansas and stuff I've been. So, yeah. But Petronella, yeah, I'm a born American, but yep. But I've lost some of it. I'll still say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, sir. And people will say, okay, you're either from the South or from the military, which is it? So yeah, I have those habits that just won't ever leave. But I don't say y'all and that kind of stuff. I've kind of lost a lot of that. So the slang I've lost a lot.
That's good.
If I talk to my sister on the phone, I can, you know, you'll know it. Because I'll say something.
Do you do the y'all with your sister on the phone?
Yeah, because she does.
Yeah.
And she says,
Okay.
yeah, you know, Y-E-A-H, whereas I'll say yes and no. I had a friend in Reno, Nevada, and he said, Cliff, there's no such word as yeah and uh-huh. And he broke me before I left the U.S.
Look,
that.
I think that Elvis Presley made a good deal out of uh-huh, didn't he?
Well, I used to live like 2 miles from Graceland, so I've been by it thousands of times. Never been in,
Right.
but been by it thousands of times. Had friends that lived like next door and behind him and stuff. So,
Oh, right.
yeah. So he was, you know, I hate to say in the neighborhood, but yeah, just 2 miles away from my house.
Okay.
So yeah, I used to see the pink Jeeps and stuff all the time. So yeah.
Cool.
18 participants, that's what I'm seeing. And that's a decent start, I guess, because we actually decided to promote it a couple days in advance this time.
I did a little one as well.
And thank you, Dawn and Cliff, for helping people, you know, with their questions along the way. That also helps as well. So what I'll do is I'll mute everyone, and then I'll unmute Dawn, and I'll introduce Dawn for those who are new. So we mute all now. Boom. There we go. And then we go to Dawn. Here we go, Dawn. Okay, just got you on unmute, Dawn. There we go. Dawn is unmuted. And I guess the introduction to Dawn is right there. There it is. There's her promotion. Dawn is with us with stories, with insights. What do you have to talk about today, Dawn?
Right. So I thought I would have a little chat about key work achievements. And the reason that I want to have a little chat about this is because it's come to my attention that when I'm having my Skype consultation with people, when they book a CV with me, and we get to that part, that a lot of people are unsure what I mean when I say, what are your key work achievements? And so I often get responses like, well, I'm very good at what I do. I'm good at my job. Okay, but that's not what I mean when I ask for key work achievements. So a key work achievement. So they will set you apart from other people, let's say, with similar experience as you. So I'm just thinking back a few years ago, and I used to work in recruitment, and I might shortlist 3 to 5 people that I might potentially interview. And there I've got these pieces of paper in front of me, and they're all looking rather similar. So I'm looking for something a bit different. And so when we talk about key work achievements, there it is. So what I mean when I ask for key work achievements, I'm asking for what have you done that's made a difference? It may be something that's you've done part of your personal development. It may be something that you've done with your colleagues or to improve the business. So it's over and above your work duties. So that's what I mean when I ask for key work achievements. So I'll give you some examples. So I've got an electrician here, and it took some time to actually get this out of him. I remember this. This was a little while ago, but I do remember this. But when they came out, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. So this was just a snippet of some of his key work achievements. So one of them was significantly reduced nuisance factory and mine downtime through a well-planned maintenance schedule. So what that did was back up his, when we said he was good at planning, etc., in his CV, well, that backs that up. So that's great. So he started there, and then he said he designed and developed a hydraulic brake system, which was now extensively used in the gold mining industry in South Africa. Wow. I thought, fantastic. Then he said successfully reconditioned a 60-year-old mine shaft winder with no drawings. It was a huge achievement, seen as near impossible actually, and it saved the company a lot of money. So that was just a snippet of that electrician and his key achievements. So we had a South African teacher who is working here in New Zealand. And so one of hers, so he had a list of, well, I would say probably anything between 2 and 6 is a good number. So one of her key achievements was achieved considerable success with reluctant writers. And this was recognised in my recent appraisal. That was great. So that was a teacher. Then I had a continuous improvement engineer, and I've had quite a few of those come through actually. So his little snippet of his, so instigated a financial tracking tool that provides real-time information. Implemented Kanban software to assist in tracking staff projects. So that's what I mean when I say key work achievements. What have you done? So when you say in your CV, you streamline processes, you look for changes. We want to know. I want to know what they are, so that we can put them down. So if you're working with me, or you're working with someone else, or you're doing this yourself, always put down a small number of your key achievements. So that is what will set you apart from the next person. And even more important, as an overseas candidate, there's enough barriers in your way. So if you can elevate yourself through your marketing tool, which is your CV, then that's one good way of doing it. Now, Tate, have I got any more time, or shall I stop there?
Yes. Well, I'll just bring Yvonne on when you're done. I thought I'd ask a couple of questions as well, just about the process.
Yes.
And yeah, just if you have anything to elaborate on, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, so bringing out these sorts of things helps you understand, and by understanding, you're able to bring out these things. So there's a bit of a feedback loop. Is that right?
Yes. I just, it's incredible to me that when I see CVs, I'll often see 10 bullet points of generic things, which actually tells me, and so it will tell the employer, nothing about you really. And often a lot of those generic points are things that you would expect anyway from a certain trade. So yeah, just I would just say to people, it's think about what makes you special. What can you bring over and above maybe somebody else? So use that marketing tool, your marketing tool, in that way. So add those extra bits on there, and rather than just what your key, what your duties are, a bit more about you. Adds to your, again, we've got that word uniqueness, which we've mentioned before.
Uniqueness, the thing about you, and I guess your specialty, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit of a coach or a counselor sort of an aspect. You're helping people in a personal way. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Skype consultation that I give is a free Skype consultation, and it can last an hour and a half. So I have someone's CV with me, and it's a starting point. And that starting, and from that, I need to find out so much more about you. And we can only have that through a conversation. And I can only learn about you through that conversation. There's a lot that people don't put down because they've got this idea that I can't say that, it's too much, or no one will be interested. Well, let me be the judge of that, because quite often there's some real gems that people haven't said, and it's only through conversation that I think, wow, we need to get that down on your CV. Yeah, I just, I would find it very difficult without having that conversation with someone to be able to sort of really drill down into some of the more important aspects of somebody's role, to be able to promote them in a way that they deserve.
Yeah. Dawn, you have a great history, and you're bringing that history into here, social service, helping people, and now you're helping people transform their lives.
Yes. Well,
that must be quite rewarding.
It is. I mean, I'm also a qualified life coach as well. So I do find that having that background and those skills really does help. When I'm talking to people, it's just not another client. I'm invited into somebody's life, and I see that as quite a privilege. And I'm told all sorts of things. And I do see it as a privilege. And so that walking alongside people when I've delivered their documents on that journey, be that in South Africa or be that when they are here, trying to do it from here, I make sure that people know that they can contact me. Sometimes it's just to run something by me. Sometimes it's, I need someone to talk to. And it's all good. It's all part of the service, actually.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to bring out just on this session as well with each of us, we are independents, but we've got an affiliation. We're non-competing. We're different. We're doing our different things. We're independent, so we don't have a boss. I mean, our bosses are clients basically, which allows us to do things for them additional. And if we were working for a structure that requires profit as the main incentive, then we don't have the privilege of just spending additional time on people, at least not as much. It's more regulated. So this is quite an honor to be in both spots, right? To help people, and also to have the ability to, stay, to help people more than just to help them through some problem that they're having, a barrier they're having, like you described.
Yeah. I'm really grateful for the skills that I've got and the background that I have, also a social working background as well. I mean, it kind of all pours into the same pots, and also my recruitment and HR background. I just feel really lucky that I've got all those skills to be able to help people in ways that you wouldn't imagine, actually. When people say, well, what do you do? I write CVs, I do LinkedIn profiles, I do interview coaching, and it seems very black and white, but it is actually way more than that. It's about relationships with people.
Well, one question is coming out from someone out there, and I won't say who because it's just coming to me, Dawn. So I want to ask this question on behalf of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this question is asked 1,000 times, but what can a candidate do to stand out if they don't have a degree, but rather 10 to 15 years of experience in a field with a proven track record? So you might have answered part of that with achievements. Could you go into whatever it is that you normally would say to someone with that question?
So what I would say is look at transferable work skills. So we'll be doing a slightly different CV perhaps. So just really expanding upon and expanding upon the key skills that you have and the experience that you've got. So yes, it will be very much about your key work achievements, and it's interesting to me how somebody could be doing a job for 10, even 20 years, and the employer is saying, and they've been doing it well, they've got proven experience and all of that, and an employer says, no, I've got to have a qualification, and it is frustrating. So it's important that, I guess, I would say it does come down to the achievements. What have you done in that time? And transferable work skills. How can we use the skills that you've got? Everyone's an individual, and so there's no sort of we'll do it this way or we'll do it that way. Everyone is an individual, and so it'll be slightly different for everyone. And I can only know that when I listen to what people are saying. It's very difficult to know that from just a piece of paper.
All right, Dawn, thank you very much. That is Dawn Hiddy, and she's right here. And her email has been given by Yvonne in the chat room.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah, so great. I think Yvonne is somewhere here as well. Yvonne, are you around?
I'm here.
Okay, well, let's get you on here as well. How are you doing? This is Yvonne. This is what Yvonne does. Yvonne, what exactly do you do for the people that are new? Could you give us a snapshot, and then we'll get into your topic.
Yeah, so I help a lot more with just that car hire and finance. So my main clientele are South Africans coming over to New Zealand that normally need to hire a car for the first few days until they can either purchase or finance their own car. And of course, those coming here job hunting just hire for a couple of weeks, some even just for the straight 3 months. It still turns out cheaper than buying a vehicle and having the risk of it breaking down. And with that has come a lot more. I started helping people with accommodation and all sorts of questions, schooling, medical, how do I find New Zealand? How is it to adjust here? How do children adjust? So it really became a lot deeper than just, work. It really has become a passion of mine to help people who want to come here and who are here and finding it difficult.
It's the sort of same story as what Dawn was saying with getting deeper into issues. I mean, you start with cars, but they don't just come for a car. And you're from the same country of most of your clients, is that right?
Yes, about 95% are South African. So yeah, I definitely have an understanding from where they're coming from. And obviously, I've been here now for about 15 months. So I've got quite a good understanding of how it is to adapt here.
Well, you've adapted well. You started a business that seems to be doing quite okay. And you definitely getting the most out of it and diving into other issues other than outside of just the car rental stuff. And that's sort of coming into the next topic, isn't it?
Yeah, hugely. So this is honestly every day I get an inbox message or an email from a family asking me, like, honestly, what is it like to adjust in New Zealand? So most of these queries come from people who've actually watched and listened to our webinar. And they obviously hear all the great, amazing stuff. But I mean, it is difficult to adjust in a new country. That's just normal. And a lot of these people need to hear what can be expected, what sort of struggles are going to be coming their way, what did we miss, what's the hardest part, and especially people coming over with young children. And at the end of the day, I mean, I've got 3 children in school, and they really do adapt easier than what I could have expected. And I think than what most people expect. They just go into school, make friends, and life goes on for them. It's really us that miss the small things, like particularly back from South Africa. So I regularly chat to my clients about how they're finding it in New Zealand, and especially once they've bought a car from me, we still keep in contact, especially when it comes to me having to still help them with longer term accommodation and that sort of stuff. And everybody sort of generally comes back with the same stuff that they have a bit of a struggle with here. I think missing family and friends is probably the first thing that will come to mind. That's normal. I mean, those are the people that were in your daily life for years, if not your whole life. And familiar faces and places, you meet new people going down to the dairy, which is like the 7-Eleven that we would have back in South Africa. It's not the same people that you're used to seeing. So there it's different faces again. A lot of the moms say, oh my word, they don't know what to do. There's so many different food products to choose from. It's like the simple things from a new margarine to a different bread type. And all that stuff, when you're not new here and you're standing in the shop with your children, it can be quite overwhelming. And spices, so many people say to me, oh my gosh, the spices are just not the same here. It's just not as salty, not as tasty. And the people who love braaiing or barbecuing, that's a huge thing to like accept. Like, it's just not going to taste the same. So many clients come back to me like, please tell me that you also found that the food doesn't taste the same. And I did, but I must be honest, I personally think the meat tastes much better. But I mean, everyone's got different tastes there. And whether, I mean, it's really my proper first long winter here. I mean, last year I got here like June, and I only really started to feel like, oh my gosh, this winter's getting quite long. And it's not that long. Where I come from Cape Town, and actually, quite honestly, it's Cape Townians that are all saying to me like, wow, is it always this wet here in New Zealand? So weather is a big part of our mood as well. And I think that's got a lot to do with immigration depression. And people have obviously been researching that such a thing does exist, because those are the type of questions I've been getting. And you get moms, like I was also one of them, who would spend every afternoon with my children doing homework, and they don't really get homework here. And that's just another small thing that you just have to accept and have faith that they're doing enough schoolwork during school hours to not have to come home with an hour of homework. Then you get the medical system. People have also said they're quite frustrated. They've got to wait over a year to see a specialist. And that's just part of the NHI health system here. And that's something to adapt to. In South Africa, you can pay a few thousand rand and you can walk into any specialist you want to. That's not really the case here. So if you're used to that, that's an adaptation. Like I was used to just being able to take my children to a pediatrician, where that's not just the case here. Yeah, everything goes through the GP. Then you get the cost of living, which I've explained before. It all becomes relative once you're earning the currency here. And then meds over the counter. You walk into the pharmacy. I mean, so many of us, including myself, like in South Africa, we used to get good old Carenza C, ACC 200 and Medlemon. Here, we don't get that. So you probably don't feel that the other stuff works nearly as well. And I know so many people who message me and ask, don't you know of someone coming over that can please bring us some good over-the-counter meds, especially painkillers? I mean, we have so much more access to stuff in South Africa, where here it's quite restricted. I remember the first time I went into, I think it was Mitre 10 here, the spray paints are all locked up. You've got to show them IDs to be able to buy spray paints. I was like, I still couldn't believe it. I took a photo and I sent it to the family. And that's just, I mean, if that is so controlled, people can just imagine how we don't have the same access to over-the-counter meds here. So I did quite a bit of research myself. I mean, I've also just recently gone through immigration depression or immigration stress. I think it's all quite relative. You go through them at some stage of your process of adapting. So I did quite a lot of research, reading and listening to all sorts of different people's stories, and put together, a bit to explain how we all go through it and that it is okay and it's normal. Immigration is a very stressful experience. Each immigrant will experience the stress in a different way. And for some, I suppose the stress will be more, and for others, the stress is less. There are people that I've met who just haven't gone through that yet. I mean, they're still on the honeymoon, like hyped up stage. Everything's new and exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, picking up your entire life and trying to transplant it somewhere else, it's hard work, not just for you, but for the whole family. Over the last few years, I had a good read that there's been numerous studies that have shown many immigrant groups are more prone to depression at some time, and they're actually less likely to seek help in the country that they've settled in, like specifically for us, it would be New Zealand, especially with we come over on a work visa and we've got to be so weary of what we're going to go to the GP for because we still need to apply for our residency. And I think it's a big thing, like, you can go seek mental health. They are so supportive here. If you're feeling depressed, it's an option that you can definitely do and it will not be held against you. They're so supportive and they really just want to help you get through it. And it was actually quite nice. They put you out there, give you all the options of different networking that's available to you as well. And obviously the unique conditions in each situation as to why did you immigrate in the first place. And I think that each immigrant experience is more similar than it is different at the end of the day. Migrants face a combination of a variety of different stresses. So you've got to get to know the new environment. You've got to get used to everything that's new, from the culture, the systems, your interactions, products, weather patterns, and so many other things that put so much stress on us, whether it be mental or emotional. I mean, the emotional part that I just went through was, you know, you see everybody else's life back home moving on, and I suppose at the end of the day, yours is as well, but you feel you're missing out. So there's some factors, I suppose, that contribute to your stress level, which, as I said, would be your close family relationships that you've got to leave them at home. Lots of people that I've met all say if you've got a high standard of living at the time you decide to immigrate, you might have to restrict your expenditure once you're here. You basically got to get back on your feet in your new country. Each person's situation is unique and each person's response to stress is different. I mean, that's how we are. So I think if you follow the general rules, your stress level will be considerably less. There's so much that we go through and different processes to get here, all the different stages as well. So I consider it the project period is what I say to my clients, and you take it from there. I mean, any well-planned project will minimize stress. So people who say, do we really need to plan as much as what we read? And my honest answer is yes. Plan, plan, plan. You can never have enough information. At the end of the day, you're going into a country which a lot of people, you've never even been here before. So plan ahead and do it phase by phase. And the one way families can also reduce their stress levels is by hiring a qualified immigration lawyer to assist them. That way you've got the comfort, you're doing the right visa, and you don't have to have that anxiety of, you know, is it right? Is it going to be declined? Is our paperwork right? So I think it's also just, you know, professionals working with you through the process, and it can get you that peace of mind. There's plenty of people who do it on their own. I did for our family of 5, but I'd also spent a good year in researching what to do first. You also got to work within your budget. You got to set realistic goals. So I refer to it again as a project. So most new projects start from the bottom where time is everything. You have to give yourself time. You also need to either build or become a support network. It's just a lot easier if you put yourself out there. As I've said, volunteer at the school, open yourself up. Like what I do as well. I mean, I was still supporting people when I was going through my stressful immigration period now. And it was so comforting to know I'm not the only one. And this type of stuff doesn't really get discussed on the groups because people feel like shy or, yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the same reason I didn't put anything on the group. But all of a sudden, when you talk about it, you get so much response. Like we're going through that too. It's so nice to know it's normal. So yeah, I myself found comfort in that as well. Lots of moms messaging me saying, you know, that they're home alone, their hubby's out meeting people at work, and here they sit with the children. And there again comes putting yourself out there. Don't sit home alone feeling sorry for yourself. So build a network early. I feel it's very critical. And a support network doesn't have to be family. It can be a community, whether it be from South Africa or wherever it's from. And it's frequently people from the same group who've been in the country for a while, and they can act as your bridge or your link and offer you other helpful services here eventually. And if you yourself can act as a link, I really say, please do it. If you see someone who's struggling, speak up, offer a helping hand, advice, something smaller goes a long way. And seek help wherever you can. Really don't sit and wait for it to pass, because for some people that I've spoken to, it doesn't. And that is where you land up like thinking, should we go home? Should we stick it out, fight or flight? That is where that kicks in. I mean, I feel the immigration process really starts the day when you decide to immigrate. So if you can get past there, plan properly, half the battle's won. Immediately deal with the issue as well. That's something I realized. Don't sit there and wait for it. You change what you can and you accept what you can't change. And talk to other immigrants, and you'll soon realize that most of them are in the same situation, which for me was a stress reliever as well. And we still do this now as a family. We try to look forward to the new and not to the familiar. I've been here for 15 months, and that's something that we still practice, especially when it's birthdays and Christmas, and even for the people back home. When you feel that longing for what they have at the moment. You'll really find many wonderful things in your new country, but it will never be the same, because it's not the same. We're not in the same place. And make a checklist and check it twice. So say it over and over. Making a list of all the positives in your new home can actually be a huge help. When things seem rough, actually write out what's going on. Write out what can help you. When you actually write it down, for instance, you might realize you have a larger support network than you thought, but don't stop there. It's not an exercise in being grateful, actually. It's then write down what you're missing from home. Then go back through the list and write down what might help you feel better. Make action points to make changes. It's not like I did the same. You can write it down and it's good to look at it, but you need to action it to make yourself feel better. Rather than writing, I hate the food here, or I'm missing my family, make an action point on your list to find a shop that stocks the goodies from home. That's something we do when we take a drive out. So Hamilton is about 2 hours from me, and Auckland's about 4. Lots of South African shops. We go to them. We can get that biltong, get that Droevos, get the kids their flings and the type of stuff we don't get in the shops here. And then, of course, I mean, missing family. Not everybody can afford to come visit you. That is a reality. You might leave and say, oh, we'll be back in 6 months. But will you really? There's a lot of stuff that you have to, set up here. So don't necessarily leave with that expectation you're going to be back within 6 months. But you can book in a scheduled weekly call to family, and that's something for you to look forward to on a Friday evening or a Sunday, whenever it is. That's something the whole family can look forward to together. And then, like always, immigrating, it's a rough experience, and be aware of that you're going to feel overwhelmed and anxious at some points, probably more than once. And sometimes even lonely, and it's totally normal. Many people have no idea, but just highlighting the information about immigration depression itself, I find very helpful. And that is why I'm doing this. I was a bit hesitant in the beginning because I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to put people off. But you know what? It's the reality of it. It's really I think most of us at some stage have all felt what a bit of immigration depression feels like. But we've got to talk about it to create awareness and help each other to get better access to resources and support each other and show each other that we're not alone. Awareness, even before you decide you're going to embrace on your immigration journey, is of absolute importance. After all, we're the strong. We're the ones who dare to move, to change, and to seek a better life. So I hope that's, I put a bit of peace of mind to someone who needs it. And yeah, to the people who messaged me as well, asking me to explain a bit about immigration depression. It's real, but there's so much positive things. If you really go and make your list of what makes your new place that you're in at the moment home, you've got so much to be thankful for. And one of the big things that I always say, New Zealand's known for its good work-life balance. It's also an amazing environment to bring up children. You feel safe and you're secure. So with the longings of, in my case, would be South Africa, there's just so much more for us to gain here as well.
Yvonne, you're going to be hard to follow up. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
It's really good. It's resonating with the list. I think everyone can recognize that. It's probably book material. You could probably go back, text this out, and publish it. It's really good.
It took a bit of planning this afternoon, but yeah, I went out of my way to chat to a few clients this week and, you know, really get everybody's true, honest feeling of what they're going through. And I saw someone said here, tell us a bit more about the climate differences. I mean, my mom-in-law is a perfect example. She's here visiting, 6-month visitor's visa. She got here in May, so she's still here till November. And she's really finding it cold. She comes from Cape Town. And we've had rain, I'd say about 90% from May up until now. So that's something for us to get used to. I mean, we've got family in Cape Town who are like, when we WhatsApp call with them, they're having a nice braai and it's a beautiful sunshine. Just last week was like 40 degrees, where our high for us at the moment here in Topa was like 10. So there's quite a lot of, you know, we don't have as many warm days at the moment, but then I also say December is just beautiful here. It's absolutely amazing. We go down to the lake where we are, everybody has dinner, so we will get there, just not right now, but yeah.
The best is yet to come. 8 months or so of good weather starting now.
There we go. That's it. That's what I say as well.
So Yvonne, I have a question that just came to mind. I'm not sure. I think there may be some other questions here as well. Well, I know there are. Since I started, I'll be greedy. You have a lot of traffic that you've encountered. And I guess it's interesting for me, statistics, you know, from the personal point of view, even your gut feeling, how many people come into this immigration depression and, from your opinion, find their way back home, percentage-wise, and how many don't have it, and how many people struggle through it? So I guess there's 3 categories: don't have it and go back, and then the middle one where they move through it as you did. Any sense for the statistic?
Yeah, well, I can really only base it on the people that I speak to on a daily basis. And I actually had a good catch up with a couple of clients that I started with last year. So they've also been here for about a year now. And they, in the beginning of our conversation, made it all out to be amazing. And then when they asked me how I was, I said, well, I just actually, you know, went through a bit of immigration depression. And as soon as I said that, it's like they could just open up and tell me what they really felt. And that was, yes, that they are missing home and the winter's been long. And yes, they've also actually been feeling that way. So I can't really say if I know anyone who hasn't gone through it. I'm sure there must be some people who just think here is just, you know, so much better than what they had and might not have much family and friends back home. So maybe they don't go through it. And then a couple of clients that I actually briefly chatted to last year, at the beginning of this year, they are going back to South Africa, some September, some the other ones November, and then January, for, you know, different reasons. Some feel they were working too hard and not spending enough time with their children. There again, they come from full-time domestic help, lots of family around them. And they didn't work as hard as what they're working now because they were self-employed. So they just want more from what they all have here at the moment. So they're going back to Cape Town. And yeah, they're also in 2 minds in saying that. They are very weary of going back to, I mean, we all read the news at the end of the day. We do know what's going on there. And there's lots of positives, I'm sure, for them to go back, but they are scared. They've got used to the type of safety and freedom that's offered here. So, yeah, I mean, I do know people that are going back, and I can say for them it has not been an easy decision. They've all stuck it out for 9 months, others 2 years. Then I did a bit of research on some Facebook groups about people who've returned from New Zealand, just so I could really get an understanding as to what their reasoning was. And they're all quite different. Like I can say, immigration is not for everybody.
All right, and then very quickly, Petronella asks, will the fact that someone is an avid traveler reduce their chances of getting immigration depression?
I do think so.
All right, and any other questions here? the issue about people not talking about it. I think you covered that quite well. Talking about it does help, and there are other people. Basically, if you feel something, there's probably going to be lots of other people that feel the same thing. And you've come
Yeah.
into contact with so many people there, Yvonne, that you've had a great resource for information for us all. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no, anytime. And I say it on the group as well. I mean, people are more than welcome to message me. That I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to talk about it. If you've got questions, ask them. If you're feeling unsure, I mean, especially on this group, I think we're such a, as you said, so well affiliated with one another. We've got trust in each other, and people can really open up and ask what they need to, and really feel secure before making the big move, or as they call it, the big trek to New Zealand.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you could just pop your email as well into the chat so that people can look it up, that would be great. And thanks for popping Dawn's in there while she was speaking.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the next topic of this unscripted webinar, and that is Mr. Cliff Thompson. Cliff and I go back a ways. Cliff, are you there? Can I
Oh, yeah.
interview you?
Yeah, go for it.
Not really interview, but more, I guess, introduce.
Grill me. I got it.
Yeah, so Cliff and I met because my sister lived next to him. Yeah, and he's been here for 20-something years.
23 since 97.
Okay. And
Last century.
Yeah, half a century. And Cliff makes a joke about himself having the most encyclopedia of useless knowledge, which is very avidly read online, I might say. So useless is apparently the in thing to read nowadays.
Okay.
Thanks, Cliff. Could you review some of the topics you cover, and why do you think they're so popular?
People in South Africa are hungry for New Zealand knowledge, New Zealand information. Something that's not selling or pitching or whatever, but just what's it like to live there on a daily basis? That's my expertise. Tate has his expertise, which is employment. Dawn has hers, which is CVs and other things. Mine is just everyday knowledge. I've been a sponge since I've been here. I consider myself, even after 23 years, consider myself lucky to be here. It's where I want to be, and it doesn't get any better than that. I wanted to make one comment regarding some of what Dawn said and kind of about what Tate does. People keep asking or making comments about the New Zealand format. I'm not sure if I'm reading that wrong. It's not about the format, it's about the content. People in South Africa probably have a standard. There's a lot more of you. There's like 80 million people, and there's only like 4.5 here. And they want to know about you. Who are you? Yeah, they want to know that you have a certain skill set, but are you going to get along with me and my staff? It's not like, oh, I'm going to hire you for 6 months. People hire you, potentially.
It's not the bullet point saying.
Yeah, and so many people are like, oh, I need New Zealand format. No, it's not that. It's the content. Fundamentally, the more you can look like a Kiwi and the less you look like a South African, you're going to look like everybody else, which is a good thing. Your CV may be perfect for South Africa, but you're not putting it forth to South Africans. You're putting it forth to New Zealanders. So that's just, so Tate helps people to talk to business owners and stakeholders in terms that they can equate to, and as a Kiwi. And if you understand that, you can basically talk their language. The same thing with Dawn. She's going to put your CV in a format that's going to talk to people in their language. Can you do it? Yes, but she's going to have that boots on the ground knowledge that you may not. And it's the little nuances. It's like you've got maybe the same content, but you didn't put it in a way that is normal for here. So as I said, your CV needs to tell me who you are. What do you do? What do I want to know about you? I want to know who you are and what do you like? So yeah,
Yeah,
more than just the tick boxes, which a lot of people have on their CV. I've done this, I've done this. It's like, okay, that's good, but who are you? And that's what she's talking about, your accomplishments. What kind of things have you accomplished and what sets you out? And the same way where Tate helps you out with employers to speak their language and tell them what they want to hear. You're used to, and you're probably an expert at talking to South African employers, but Kiwis don't think like South Africans. So in closing, fundamentally, the more you can look like a Kiwi, not that I'm trying to change you or make you something you're not, but the more your CV and you talk to an employer like a Kiwi, the quicker you're going to be accepted, and the less that you're a South Afrikaner is going to be an issue. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does, Cliff. I guess just a short example of that is a typical manager in South African. Not all, but many are managing at a distance and not working with their team. And that's the way to do it. In many parts of the South African market niches, many cultures, many parts of the work industry, it's an accepted fact that that's how things are done. Here, it's not the way things are done. The way to be a good leader here is to work with your men. Even whether you're foreman, even site supervisor, you're not seen, it's not respected by the culture here generally, the business culture, to be aloof, to be above, to be in a hierarchy. That's not the way. We're more flat. We're a small community. We're a small country. Everyone knows each other. It happens all the time. We meet similar people, who know someone all the time. 4.5 million. You live in a town like Nelson, where we live here, or New Plymouth, where Dawn lives. Even in Auckland, you're going to have regions where people spend time and you get to know each other. That's a good thing because your reputation follows you. Well, it's good if you're a good person.
If you're a bad person, the bad's going to follow you.
If you want security, be yourself and get to know people, and they'll accept you for those little things that are odd. Everyone has little odd things. It's not just me. And just that's part of being in a smaller country, smaller community, and you just I think you hit the nail on the head. Cliff, you also brought together some of that in some of your articles. Now, some of those things that are quite specific to Kiwi culture or Kiwi experiences that generated a lot of interest. How did you make that article, and what are some of the things that people responded to so well in that?
Okay, hopefully some of you guys have seen some of the posts I made. I made one about facts. It was just, as Tate said, I'm a walking encyclopedia of useless information. And I just probed my brain and said, what are these facts? You can read about them in any book. It would be if I ask you about South African facts. They're things you know. You don't go walking around at night. When the dogs bark, you don't go outside. I've had people tell me that. It's like, it's common knowledge. Everybody knows. So a lot of what I posted is just daily life here, just different things. Where I posted about etiquette, that's more of a nuance, and that's true around the world. Everywhere, every country is going to have certain things that are etiquette, standard things, and you're probably not going to find them written down anywhere.
We'll just bump into them.
Yeah. It's like, oops, that was a no-no, but won't do that again. But I just tried to share everyday life and knowledge. Then I put the dark side posts. So those were the 3 posts where I just got not bombarded, but complimented in a very positive way. I got a ton of friend requests and all kinds of stuff, and I appreciate that. And as I said, I found out that you South Africans as a group are the fastest readers I've ever encountered. And then I found out a lot of you were taught that or were taught that in school, speed reading. But you guys went through, I might take a couple hours to post, to type up a post, and then within like 30 seconds or a minute, I'm getting feedback, and it's like, holy crap, how did they read all that? And it wasn't just you read it, you comprehended it. And some of it wasn't so easy to understand. So, if you want to put it in short form, all I did was a brain dump. But I did the facts, which were just general knowledge. You could do the same if I asked things about South Africa. The etiquette, I tried to put down things that you're not going to find out about. Like I said, you don't call people after 9 p.m. We are not a 24-hour country. I came from the US. You want to call somebody at 3 a.m. in the morning, go for it. It's not a big thing.
You came not just from the US, you came from the zone of where the cities don't sleep. I mean, Las Vegas, Reno, LA.
Yep.
I mean, that's a different thing than Midwest. So just specify that.
Yeah. So my point of reference was that. But yeah, in New Zealand, you don't call people after 9 o'clock. It's pretty standard. If you're traveling around, you may even go up to a motel and go up to the office and it's after 9 p.m. You can see them maybe in their back office or back room watching TV or having dinner, and they won't come to the front door.
And you might think they're rude, but they'll think you're rude if you expect them to.
Yeah. So that is just some of the nuances here. We're not a 24-hour country. The fact of if the blinds are closed, that means like a do not disturb.
Now, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like it's quiet time. Maybe the kids are taking a nap, you're having family time or whatever. And it's not stay away, but it's common and it's not written down.
So that's what these things. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead, Tate.
A lot of these things that aren't written down, people shouldn't worry that there's a whole bunch of things that you have to learn. I mean, it's not that. I mean, I guess it's just we've got layers, right? There's things that you need to do to get work, and that's important.
Yep.
Put yourself in the position of that. That's important. We want to do that. But
Yep.
as we get down into the nuances, it's more just fun. And, you're going to be forgiven for stepping on some of these etiquette no-dos. They'll say, oh, yeah, another foreigner. Yeah. You come out of a driveway, and you start on the right side of the road, and then you panic and switch over to the left. Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Try not to hit anyone, huh? That sort of thing. It just happens, these natural things of bumping into the way things are done differently.
Yeah, and they are just nuances. They are normalcy here. They're not rules. It's not like you will not do that. No. Where I talked about eating on the phone, try it and they'll hang up on you. It's just not everybody. And some people might not think a thing of it, particularly if they're from another country, but you're not showing that person respect. It's like, and they're trying to talk. It's like, why am I talking to you? And they'll just hang up the phone.
Cliff, thanks for sharing. And your posts are there online, and they get a lot of views, and you do attract an audience that's interested in those particular things that really aren't published anywhere.
And that's what I tried to share. Yeah, stuff you don't know, which is just everyday life here. Friday drinks. It's a common thing. Often your employer will put out a couple of 6-packs of beer and maybe a couple of bottles of wine to where the employees can all congregate. I sometimes refer to it, they're having some drinks till the bar's open, then they're going to go out and really drink. But the bigger the place, the more employees, the more common that is. And it's quite common. In a 3-man shop, you might not, but if you're working with 10 or 12 or more people, it's going to be pretty common. And it is totally optional. Do not feel, oh, I have to do this. This is something you have to do. No, it's there. It's common. A lot of people do it, but it's not like, oh, I must do this. I must do what other Kiwis. No, you have to always be who you are. Don't try and be anybody else because it's going to come through. But the person who you are is inside is what everybody wants to know. That's the person they want to learn. They don't care whether you're wearing an All Blacks or a Springboks jersey. That's not an issue. That can even be fun.
Yeah, they'll make jokes about it, but the jokes are nearly always in good humor. I mean, like 95% more. They're not really trying to get it.
So again, it's like, so all those things I posted about facts, them's the facts. This is how many beach we have. You're never more than 125 kilometers from a beach anywhere in New Zealand, and often you're closer than that most of the time. We don't have highways everywhere. So if you've seen a map of New Zealand and it's like you see the main highways, that's all there is. Everything else is going to be a sheep track, a gravel road or a grass road or what have you. So, it's hard to get lost in New Zealand because it's not like, oh, I got off on some road that went nowhere. No, you didn't. It's just not there. But yeah, that's New Zealand. And that's what I tried to share with you is everyday life so that you could understand the expectation. Now, as I said, I love my country, and a little bit where I posted the facts and then the etiquette, I felt I did an overselling job, and it's like, uh-oh, I think I said too much positive stuff, and it was all true. It was all from the heart, but I felt like I maybe went too far that way. So when I posted the dark side, it's like, hey, I got to share with you both sides. It's not this panacea. Nowhere is. In my own words, we're not better or worse than South Africa. We're just different. Maybe we're safer in other aspects or whatever. We don't have as much crime and stuff, but we're just different. And you need to acclimate to that difference. When you come here, you're not in South Africa anymore. So the things that you did for a reason don't apply anymore. And I hate to say, you need to change, but yeah, you need to adapt the same way as when it's cold, you put on a coat. When it's hot, you take it off. When you come here, and if you want to be accepted in everyday life, Kiwis travel. It's very common. In America, when you turn 16, you get your sweet 16 and you get a car. It's common. Kiwis, when they graduate high school before they start university, often do what's called their OE, their overseas experience. And when they graduate from high school, they will spend a year or longer traveling around the world. Yeah, go backpacking and stuff, to America, to Europe, to the Middle East, to South Africa, wherever it may be, before they start university. And that is extremely common here. Sometimes you'll go through university and then take an OE before you take a job. It depends on the person. But, in America, you get, your 16th birthday and you get your gift, whereas here, you're going to go do your OE. And everybody saves up for their OE and whatnot. And these are just, young people or whatever who are just going backpacking to find out where they sit in the world. Kiwis, not everybody's going to stay here. Some people are going to move to various places around the world for various reasons, and that's fine. But the majority of people will stay here. It's a really good place. Some may leave for a while and then come back. But that's where I say Yvonne's kids are my future, because they're probably going to stay here and they're going to be the police, the judges, the doctors, the nurses. So her kids are my future, and I'm going to protect them the same way I would protect everybody else's kid.
And that's part of the culture as well, as you brought out last webinar.
Right. Yeah. Now, when I first moved here, I lived on a street, and I had an elementary school down the street, kind of at the end of the block. And there were these little kids that were like 5 and 6 years old, and they're wearing their little backpack, and their backpack's bigger than they are. So every morning these kids would, be walking to school down the street. Now in America, that kid would have never made it down the street. He would have been kidnapped or taken or something or whatever. You don't let your kids walk on the street or play in the yard. There's all kinds of bad people around. And, some of the Saffers have talked about, where they can't let their kids play for some of the, similar reasons. But don't think that everybody in every house isn't watching those kids. You go walk up to that kid, you might be surprised how many people walk out of their houses, walk out of their decks.
Totally different children will walk up and ask questions.
To check on you, to say, what are you doing talking to that kid?
Yeah, although they'll ask another question that requires them to explain themselves, but they won't confront unless they know. Yeah, but you're right. I've seen that before.
Yeah. And that's just the Kiwi way. That's what's done here, because those kids are their future as well.
Yeah.
And that culture doesn't exist in America. It's not thought of that way. I think I mentioned in one of my posts about, I was impressed when I flew Air New Zealand years ago, because they fed the kids first, before frequent flyers, before anybody else. kids got fed first, and I thought it spoke well of the country. They didn't say a word. It's just the kids got their meals first, and they'd get the little wings and stuff like that, and whatnot. But
well, you have a lot of comments that are very positive, Cliff. You do have a base here. While we're on the topic of Cliff, what do you do for a living? That's been the question that you answered in the pre-webinar. So there is a pre-webinar. Before we start, we actually just do whatever. We have chats, and you're welcome to join that. That's when we have the open mic. So it's children crying, doors closing, and it's a bit of chaos. If there's a few there, it's okay. And if there's many, we'll decide what to do when that time comes. But for now, you're welcome there with open mic. Cliff, you were asked, what do you do? What was your answer?
I'm a professional guesser. I'm a futures trader. I trade currencies, gold, crude oil, things like that, online. And I'm a vampire because I start work at midnight, which is quite rare in New Zealand, to trade the US financial markets. You can trade anytime the same way you can fish anytime, but really you fish when the fish are there. So I trade in the sweet spot, which is during US daytime hours. So
All
like
right,
say I'm a vampire.
And you brought up many issues about the differences between the countries. Here's a few that keep coming to mind, and I'm sure there'll be many others, but just the work-life balance, it's a real thing. I talked with the guy, Andre, who came over from, he's a fitter, and he got a job, and he's been his first week, and he lives in Nelson, and I talked to him today. His first time. I love it. This is a fantastic job. I get to actually see you sometimes when you're here, especially if you're in this little town or coming through. Yes, work-life balance is real. He experienced it right away. It's a big difference. So many things are the same. Machines are same. Management styles are the same. KPIs the same. Similar, not same, but work-life balance is different. That's where you get to go away, not work because they kick you out the door in a nice way and say
they'll run you off. Yeah, people are like, the hours are this to this. You can work extra and it's appreciated, but literally on a Friday afternoon, they will run your ass out of there because it's like you need to go spend time with your family, and they know that, and they'll run you out of there. They really will.
Another one is keeping up with the Joneses. If you have that phrase, it's an American phrase, or maybe universal, here. I'm not sure. Keeping up with the neighbors doesn't exist here. There's no sense in that. Why? Why should you care if someone's jealous of you? It makes no sense. Why do you want to spend a lot of money on a BMW? Fine, if you have it, do it. That doesn't matter. Do it. But it's not like it's negative. It's just that if you're going into debt to show off, that's foolish. Why? No one judges you about that. You pull up with the junk car, and someone else pulls up with a high-end car. They might actually be more judged than you are. You see, because they'll evaluate who you are as the main thing. And if you're trying to show off, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, if you try and be flashier, which is to try and show off or show your wealth, it's actually not considered nice. Even if you have it, if there's a formal dinner or something, yeah, you need to dress up for it, and that's fine. But to just try and show off and dress up nice and stuff over is not okay. I'll give you an example. I had a friend who owned a petrol station. I used to go down and chat with him and stuff. And I was just in there, and we were just, just talking about stuff. And this guy came in. He had, one of those little small pickup trucks. He pumped his gas, came in, told my friend hi, how you doing, how's the family, and that kind of stuff. Just a normal guy, just dressed normal, went out to his truck and headed down to Wellington. And my friend told me, he said, do you have any idea who that guy is? I said, no. He said, that guy owns office buildings. He was a multimillionaire. The most common guy, he would have looked like somebody that was filling up your tank or cleaning your windscreen or something or whatever, just came in, did his business and went home. But a multimillionaire who owned office buildings down in Wellington, and you wouldn't have picked him out from the crowd. That's normal.
There's another guy here that owns an orchard. I won't say the name of the orchard, but everyone who's in this region will know that orchard. The man's quite famous. He knows plants backwards and forwards, and same story as far as status goes in terms of economic or whatever, but his knowledge is so deep. He walks around barefoot everywhere. It's normally quite dirty feet because he's in with the soil and he's working with his hands, and you would never know that he's, quite well off because of his demeanor, how he behaves. But when you talk to him, you say something special. This guy is so knowledgeable about plants. And that's the first thing. But you won't really understand that he's actually owning quite a successful orchard that distributes throughout New Zealand. You just have to know his name connected to the orchard name, and that will help you out. But otherwise, you never know. Someone has to tell you.
And everybody knows, and they treat him like a regular person.
Yeah, and that's what he wants as well. He doesn't want to be held up on a pedestal. He's like, what are you doing? This is weird.
Yeah. John Travolta used to fly down to a city called Akaroa, which is down kind of just south of Christchurch. And he could go walk down the street with his family and people just say hi. He didn't get mobbed or whatever. He was just, he went down there quite a bit with his family. And, that's one reason he went, is he could walk on the streets or walk into his shop or anywhere and was treated the same as everybody else, if that gives you a point of reference. So it doesn't matter whether you're a big name or no name, it doesn't matter. Most Kiwis aren't rich in money. They're rich in other things. They're rich in lifestyle. They're rich in the sense that they can spend time with their families and their families are safe. So they have millions in currency, but not in the currency that other people have in their wallet.
Different currency.
Yeah, it's a different
wealth. Whole nother. We can talk about that and break that down. It's a whole discussion that we could get into, probably 10, 15 minutes someday. What different currencies we have here and what's respected here as currency. I mean, giving is a currency. What do you give? Stuff that you have an abundance of, right? Cliff, you say it all the time.
Yeah. So as I said, what is the value set in South Africa? It's probably different from here. And it's just the culture. There's no rule. There's no book that says that. You just see it. You look out and people are driving Lamborghinis or something or what have you. And here, people don't make a big salary. They're not poor. We drive smaller cars because petrol is expensive. And so most people drive smaller cars. Are there Mercedes-Benz and things and stuff here? Of course. And BMWs, of course.
No one's living under bridges and everyone has care if they have emergency needs. And, the police do come to the house if there's a problem. And so things function. So that, I think everyone sort of gets that. I'm just repeating the obvious, I guess.
Now,
thanks, Cliff.
Okay. Now, I have just one question you guys can post. Did you catch my post called The List, which is what do you want in life and what do you need in life?
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I've heard you do that before just personally, but yeah.
So for the people that are here, did you see that post? Because that is a good thing to say, what do you really want? People are like, oh, I've decided to move to New Zealand. Why? What is it you're after? What do you want?
Why is a good question.
No, not me. This is for you so that you can say, yes, this is what I want. And this is going to satisfy me. And that's where Yvonne talked about some people come here, but that really wasn't what they needed or wanted. They came here because of our reputation, of which, I added some fuel to, good or bad. But yeah, figure out what you want in life and what's important and where do you want to be in the future. And hopefully some of you saw my submarine post as well.
I can tell you 90% of that, 95% is better future. And it comes down to mostly if there's children, it's for them. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, since I've been here and I've met other immigrants, I'm single, not married, no kids, never been married. So in a way I'm poor. Okay. In another way I do okay. But yeah, I'm never going to be as rich as some of you guys that have got kids and stuff. That's my value set. Am I crying about it? No, I had my life choices and I chose it, and you are choosing yours. But as I said, there's everybody I talked to who, pretty much everybody who immigrated to New Zealand did it for their kids, to give them a better life, to give them a safe life. And that's people coming from India, the Middle East, even the US, Russia.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cliff. It's been great to have you as usual. the encyclopedia of useful knowledge, if we can coin it that way. It's always good to have you here. And we'll see you next time. Thank you all for joining. Take care.